The faint aroma of a tangy fish stew still lingered in the small kitchen. I stood there, clutching the worn wooden ladle, my gaze drifting over the neatly stacked white porcelain bowls on the shelf. Today was my 60th birthday. Not a single call, not a word of well-wishing, only the relentless ticking of the wall clock, a stark reminder that time waits for no one, not even a mother like me. I wiped my hands on my apron, striving to keep my breathing steady, but my chest felt heavier with the silence from the very home I'd spent a lifetime building. Heavy footsteps echoed from the living room. It was James, my youngest son, the boy I'd cradled through feverish nights, the one I'd woken early to pack lunches for school. Now, he entered the kitchen, his posture rigid, his eyes skimming past me as if I were a mere shadow in this house. Behind him was Emily, my daughter-in-law, her smile thin and unreadable, as it always had been. They stood there, facing me, as though I were the outsider. "Mum," James said, his voice cold and detached. "We need to talk." I nodded, setting the ladle down, forcing a smile despite the quickening pulse in my chest. "What's this about?" "Love," I asked, my tone as gentle as it had been when he was a boy. Emily stepped forward, arms crossed, her lips pressed tight before she spoke. "Mum, this is our house now. If you want to stay, you'll need to adjust, do things our way, follow our rules. If not, it might be best if you leave." The words hit like a blow, my blood seeming to freeze in my veins. My hands trembled slightly, but I gripped the edge of the table to steady them. James stood silent, head bowed, as if in quiet agreement with his wife. I searched his eyes, desperate for a trace of the boy who once called me Mummy with such warmth. But there was nothing, just a cold distance. "Leave," I echoed, my voice soft but sharp. Emily nodded, unflinching. "Yes, either you do as we say, or you go. This house has no place for someone who won't fall in line." I smiled, not out of joy, but to mask the storm raging within me. Turning away, I left the kitchen without another word. My footsteps echoed on the old wooden floor, each one a knife twisting through memories of this house. Upstairs, I opened the wardrobe and pulled out the battered suitcase I'd brought here when I married my husband. It sat there, coated in a thin layer of dust, much like I seemed to be in my son's eyes. The zip of the suitcase rasped harshly, a sound that declared everything had changed. I didn't cry, though my eyes stung. I didn't beg, though my heart felt torn apart. Quietly, I packed a few clothes, some personal items, and a family photograph, one where James, as a small boy, beamed brightly beside me and his father. My trembling fingers brushed over his smile in the picture. He'd once been my everything. What was he now? From downstairs, I caught Emily's hushed, urgent whispers to James, her voice sharp and purposeful, as if plotting something. There was a tone in her words that sent a chill down my spine, not just cruelty, but a hidden agenda I couldn't yet grasp. What did they want? The house, money, or something bigger? Something this old mother hadn't yet seen through. I dragged the suitcase to the door of the bedroom, pausing to take in the room I'd slept in for 30 years. The walls still bore the faint pencil marks James had scribbled at 3 years old. The bed still held the faint scent of nights when my husband and I lay together, dreaming of the future. Now, it was all just memory. I took a deep breath, swallowing the lump in my throat. Before leaving, I turned to look at James, standing at the foot of the stairs. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice steady but cutting. He hesitated, eyes averted, then gave a slight nod. "I think it's best if you go, Mum, if you can't do things our way." I smiled again, that hollow smile to hide the pain tearing me apart. Pulling the suitcase behind me, I walked towards the door, but a question burned in my mind. What are they hiding? So, before you get too settled, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you're truly enjoying what I'm sharing here. I sat alone at the dining table, the faint glow of the neon kitchen light casting shadows over the now cold dishes I'd spent the afternoon preparing. The lingering scent of tangy fish stew mingled with the aroma of freshly cooked rice from the old electric cooker, the one I bought when James was still in secondary school. Back when my husband was alive, my hands trembled as I held the chopsticks, picking up a piece of fish, but my mouth was bitter, the food impossible to swallow. The suitcase sat in the corner of the room, a silent reminder that everything had changed. Yet I couldn't leave just yet, not out of nostalgia, but because of a nagging instinct that something was unfolding behind my back. From the living room, whispers drifted, Emily's voice sharp as a blade. James murmuring in reluctant agreement, as if pulled along by her will. I glanced down at the table. At the familiar spread vibrant stir-fried water spinach, a steaming bowl of fish stew with red chilies floating on the surface, and neatly sliced boiled chicken. These were James's childhood favorites, dishes I'd learned from his grandmother, rooted in our family's British traditions. Meals that were more than sustenance, a quiet way to show love without words. Eat up. Love, I made this for you, I used to say, and James would grin, helping himself eagerly. Now, the food sat untouched, as cold as my heart felt in that moment. I ran my fingers over the bamboo chopsticks, their worn texture stirring memories of days when our family gathered around the dinner table. Memories flooded back like a tide, starting with the white porcelain bowl James broke as a child. He'd cried, terrified of a scolding, but I just held him close and whispered, "It's all right, love. I'll get another." He was 6 then, and my husband David, we called him, was working as a mechanic at the local garage, earning a modest wage, but enough to keep us afloat. I took in sewing at home, staying up late and rising early to ensure James had books and new clothes. On rainy London evenings, with streets slick and gleaming, I'd pedal him to extra lessons on my old bike, both of us drenched despite our raincoats. I never complained. "Mom, why don't you get a car?" James once asked, his voice full of innocence. I'd smiled, ruffling his hair. "I'm saving up so you can go to university." Love. And he did graduated as an engineer, then met Emily, the striking northern girl with a sweet smile but eyes that always seemed to calculate. I pushed the plate aside and stood, my legs heavy as lead. From the kitchen window, I gazed at the back garden, where the old apple tree stood, its fruit glowing golden under the moonlight. James used to climb it, picking apples for me with a cheeky grin. "Try this. Mum, it's sweet," he'd say. Now, that tree had witnessed so much change, David's death in a workplace accident 10 years ago, leaving me this modest house and a small savings account, my legacy for James, or so I thought. But when Emily came into our lives, things shifted. She'd drop hints, "Mum, this house is looking a bit tired, maybe spruce it up." I'd smile, thinking it was concern, but now I saw it for what it was probing. James changed too, calling less, visiting less, and when he did, he was always in a rush, as if I were a burden. Footsteps approached, and Emily entered the kitchen, a glass of water in hand, her smile as forced as ever. "Haven't eaten yet." "Mom, shall I clear up for you?" Her voice was syrupy, but her eyes flicked to the suitcase in the corner. Assessing, I sat back down, forcing calm, and picked up a piece of spinach. "No need, love. I can manage." Emily sat opposite, stirring her glass, the clink of the spoon against the rim sounding like a warning. "What do you think about earlier? James was just talking. You know you can stay here forever." Her words carried an unspoken condition stay, but on our terms. I met her gaze, her dark eyes cold despite their sparkle. "I trust my son knows what he's doing," I said softly, in that understated British way, not confronting, but probing in return. Emily smirked, placing a piece of chicken in my bowl. "You've done so much for James." "I know, but he's got his own family now. Mum, you understand, don't you?" "Done so much." I swallowed hard, memories surging. When James was at university, I sold my wedding ring, David's gift, to cover his fees. "Don't sell it." "Mum, I'll get a job," he'd said, but I shook my head. "You focus on your studies. Love, I've got this." And he did, graduating, marrying Emily, the woman I thought would bring him joy. But Emily changed everything. She convinced James to buy a new house, but with what money? My savings, the ones they assumed I'd hand over. I watched her now, chewing slowly, as if savoring a victory. My phone buzzed suddenly, a call from Margaret, my dear neighbor, practically a sister since David's time. "Mary, I overheard James and Emily talking about the house. Be careful." "Love," she whispered, her voice laced with worry. I glanced at Emily, who was staring at me. "Hello, Margaret." "Yes, I'll pop over tomorrow." I hung up, my heart pounding. Emily tilted her head. "Margaret, was it?" She's always got something to say, hasn't she? I gave a faint smile. "Just a neighbor." "Love." But in my mind, pieces were falling into place. Emily didn't like Margaret, who often spoke of my sacrifices. Perhaps she feared James might remember, might feel guilt. I ate on, but my thoughts drifted back. When David died, James wept at his grave, promising, I'll look after you forever. Mom, I'd held him, tears streaming. I just want you to be happy. Love. But what was his happiness now? This house Emily had her eyes on, or something more. I recalled her asking about my savings, Mom. Which bank do you use? I could help you manage it. I'd laughed it off. I'm old, but I can handle it. Now, her ultimatum echoed, serve them, or leave, serve them, as a maid, or by signing over everything. James's voice came from the living room. Emily, come here. She stood, giving me one last look. Think it over. Mom, don't make things harder than they need to be. She left, the air heavy in her wake. I stared at the untouched food, a reminder of my futile sacrifices, but a spark ignited within me. I wouldn't leave without a fight. I could plan, use their assumption of my weakness against them. Margaret could help, and perhaps others. But was it right? I'm his mother. Should I be plotting against my own son? I cleared the table, my hand brushing the family photo on the wall. James's radiant smile at his 18th birthday, all of us together. My fingers traced the worn paper, recalling that joyful day. Now, I heard Emily's giggle from the living room, mixed with James's voice. Don't worry, she'll come around. But they didn't know I'd heard. In my mind, a vague plan took shape. I'd stay, not to obey, but to uncover their secret, and perhaps give them what they deserved. Suddenly, a strange noise came from the back garden, like someone rummaging. My heart clenched. Was someone watching, or just the wind? I switched off the kitchen light, peering into the darkness. A shadow moved. Not my imagination, someone was out there. Was it connected to Emily? My grip tightened, my breath quickening. This was bigger than I'd thought. The strange noise from the back garden lingered in my mind, like a whisper from the shadows, making the hairs on my arms stand on end. I switched off the kitchen light, held my breath, and pressed my face against the cold glass, straining to see through the damp London night. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of wet earth from the afternoon's rain, mingled with the faint smell of incense from a neighbor's offering a ritual. I still kept every full moon to honor my late husband. But now, in the darkness, I saw only the apple tree's branches swaying gently, and a fleeting shadow that vanished as if it had never been there. My heart pounded, the rush of blood in my ears drowning out the hum of nocturnal insects. A stray cat, perhaps, or someone watching. Emily and James were still in the living room, their muffled laughter echoing, as if celebrating a premature victory. I shook my head, telling myself it was just exhaustion playing tricks. But deep down, a vague fear took root. They were hiding something bigger. And now, perhaps, they were watching me. I left the kitchen, my footsteps light on the creaky wooden floor, each squeak a quiet warning. The suitcase remained in the corner of the bedroom, its zip half open, as if waiting for me to finalize my decision. I sank onto the bed, running my hand over the faded cotton bedsheet, its sun-bleached scent stirring memories of days spent washing for the family. This bedroom was once the warmest place, where David, my husband, would lie beside me, sharing tales of his childhood in the countryside, by the rivers of his youth. Now it felt cold, like my heart after James's ultimatum, serve his wife, or leave. Those words echoed, forcing me to question what had I done wrong. I'd given my life for my son, only to face this disdain. I opened the bedside drawer, where I kept my keepsakes. Things Emily once dismissed as clutter, best thrown out to free up space. My trembling hands touched the small wooden box, its surface polished smooth by time, a faint whiff of aged wood rising as I lifted the lid. Inside were old letters, their paper yellowed, David's handwriting bold yet tender, still vivid. I picked up the first, its date faded, 1985, the year we married. My love, I promised to build us a home, a place where our children will grow up surrounded by love. I read silently, tears rolling down my cheeks, their saltiness lingering on my lips. David had kept his word. This house was proof. But now, it was Emily's target, the daughter-in-law I'd once welcomed with joy. Believing she'd bring happiness to James, I turned to another letter, written when James was born. Our son looks so much like you. With bright eyes and a warm smile, I'll teach him to be a man who cherishes his mother. My fingers traced the rough paper, as if touching the past. Those years, I stayed up nights nursing James through fevers while David worked late shifts, sending home every penny. Our family's values taught us this parent sacrifice. Children honor them, But where was James now? He'd chosen Emily, chosen coldness over a mother's love. What morality allowed a son to cast his mother out, stay and serve like a maid, or leave and let them take everything? A storm of conflict surged within me, like the river tides David used to describe. Part of me wanted to stay, hoping James would remember my sacrifices, selling my wedding ring for his university fees, borrowing money after David's death to see him through his degree. But another part saw the painful truth this family had broken long ago. Emily wasn't just harsh, she was calculating. I recalled her asking about the house deeds. Mom, let me keep them safe. You might misplace them. I'd laughed it off. But now I saw the signs. And James, too weak to stand up to his wife, forgetting his promise at his father's grave. I'll look after you. Mom. I set the letter down and stepped onto the small balcony, the cool night breeze carrying the faint scent of incense from a nearby church. Below, the streetlights cast a golden glow on parked cars. Laughter drifting from a nearby pub. Life went on. But where did I fit? Staying meant accepting humiliation in our family's tradition. An elderly mother deserved respect, not servitude. Leaving would hurt, but perhaps it was freedom. I gripped the cold iron railing, my knuckles whitening, wondering did I have the right to fight back? Not with anger, but with truth exposing whatever they were hiding. My phone buzzed, Margaret calling again. I answered, her voice a whisper, Mary. I heard Emily's been talking to a solicitor about the house. Be careful. Love, they might want you to sign it away. My heart tightened, my breath quickening. There it was, proof. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted everything. I thanked Margaret, my voice catching. Come over tomorrow. Will you? Hanging up. I returned to the room, picking up David's final letter, written before his accident. My love, if I'm gone, keep the house for James. But don't let him forget his roots. Tears splashed onto the paper, blurring his words. The bitter truth James had forgotten, and Emily had pushed him there. I sat with the open box, memories flooding through every sense. The musty smell of old paper, the hum of wind outside, the bitter taste in my throat. What morality was this? As a mother, should I forgive, or as a woman, protect myself? A decision took shape. I wouldn't leave yet. I'd stay, gather evidence. Margaret could help, maybe even a solicitor of my own. Then, footsteps, James, climbing the stairs. He knocked, his voice hesitant. Mum, can we talk? I wiped my tears, closed the box, and said, come in, love. James entered, looking weary, his eyes avoiding the suitcase. What do you think about what Emily said? I don't want to push you out, but she's particular. The subtext was clear. He wouldn't stand up to her. I gave a faint smile, my voice steady. What should I do? Then, be your maid. He looked down, twisting his shirt hem. Mum, we need the house to expand. Emily's pregnant. We need space for the baby. The words cut like a knife. Pregnant. They'd kept it from me. My face flushed, but I kept my tone even. Congratulations. Love. But I'm the grandmother. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He stammered. Emily thought you might not be happy. The real meaning they feared I'd object, knowing they wanted the house. I looked at him, seeing a stranger where my little boy once stood. I'm thrilled. Love. But does Emily really want me staying on as a servant? Silence. Then, stay. Mum, we'll treat you well. Empty words. I nodded. But in my heart, a plan solidified. I'd stay. Not to obey, but to find the deeds, check the papers, and confront them. James left, the air heavy. I opened the box again, tracing David's words. Don't let him forget his roots. I wouldn't. But then, from the garden, the noise returned sharper, like someone digging. My heart raced. I rushed to the balcony, peering down a figure hunched by the fence, holding a small shovel. Who was it? Someone Emily hired? Or a bigger secret? I clutched my phone, hands shaking, wondering where would this truth lead. The sharp, rhythmic scrape of a shovel against earth echoed from the back garden, matching the frantic beat of my heart. The London night was damp, the air thick with the scent of wet soil mixed with the faint incense from a nearby church. Familiar yet eerie, I stood on the balcony, gripping the cold iron railing, straining to pierce the darkness. The figure hunched below was indistinct, short, clad in a dark coat with a cap pulled low, obscuring their face. I wanted to shout, but my throat was dry, fear swallowing my voice. Who was it? Someone Emily had sent to spy, or a clue to the larger secret I was trying to unravel. I reached for my phone to call Margaret, but hesitated. If this was a trap, I couldn't act rashly. I needed an ally, and thankfully, Margaret had already reached out. I slipped back into the room, closing the balcony door and drawing the curtains tight to block any light. The muffled voices of James and Emily drifted from the living room, now hushed. As if they didn't want me to hear, I sat on the bed, clutching the wooden box of David's letters, the rough grain under my fingers. A reminder I couldn't afford to be weak. My phone buzzed softly. Margaret's name on the screen. I answered, whispering, "Margaret, is something urgent?" Her voice was hurried, tinged with worry. "Mary, listen. Young Tommy from next door told me he's seen Emily meeting a stranger at the cafe down the lane. The man was asking about your house, like he was sizing up its value. Be careful, I think she's planning to sell." My blood surged, my breath quickening. Sell the house. This house, built with David's sweat, where I raised James. Emily didn't just want me gone. She wanted to claim our legacy. I whispered, "Thank you, love. I'll come over tomorrow to talk properly." Hanging up, I glanced at the suitcase in the corner, resolve hardening within me. I wouldn't let them win so easily. The next morning, I rose early, as always, brewing a pot of jasmine tea, its delicate scent filling the air, but doing little to soothe my mind. I slipped into a simple navy dress, the soft cotton one David used to love, and walked to Margaret's. The narrow street was alive with the hum of morning traffic, the smell of sizzling bacon from a nearby cafe stirring memories of James as a boy, tugging my hand for a treat. Now, he sided with Emily, ready to cast his mother out. Margaret greeted me at her door, her silver hair neatly tied back, her kind smile overshadowed by anxious eyes. "Come in, Mary. Tea's ready." Her small home was cozy, the faint scent of sandalwood incense lingering, a photo of her late husband on a modest altar. We sat, and as she poured tea, the steam fogged my glasses. "Tell me everything." "Love, how could James speak to you like that?" I recounted it all, from the ultimatum to the shadowy figure last night. Margaret listened, her grip tightening on her cup, then sighed. "I don't trust Emily. Mary, last month, I saw her talking to a man in a suit, carrying a briefcase looked like a property agent. After asking around, I learned his name's Henry, deals in buying cheap houses to flip." Her words hit like ice water. I remembered Emily's eyes when she asked about the house deeds, her voice sweet but calculating. "Mum, let me keep them safe, you might lose them." I'd suspected something, but not this far. "Margaret, anything else? What about James? Is he in on it?" She shook her head. "James is a good lad. You know that. I reckon Emily's got him wrapped around her finger. But Mary, check your deeds. Don't let them sign anything behind your back." Margaret became my unexpected ally, not just as a neighbor, but as someone who understood a mother's pain. She added, "Yesterday, I overheard Emily on the phone, talking about finalizing the plan before Christmas. I'm worried they want you to sign away your rights." My head spun, but clarity emerged. A plan took shape: check the deeds, find a solicitor, and, crucially, watch Emily. But morality nagged. Confronting my daughter-in-law was one thing, but if James was involved, could I face my own son? The thought stabbed at my heart. Back home, I entered the living room where Emily sat, scrolling her phone, her lips tightening when she saw me. "Out early." "Mum," she asked, her tone sweet but sharp. "Just popped to Margaret's for a chat." I replied, watching her closely. Her eyes flashed with irritation, but she smiled. "Careful. Mum Margaret loves a good gossip." I nodded, but my plan was set. I'd pretend to agree, play along, and see how far they'd go. Upstairs, I opened the small safe in the wardrobe, where the house deeds and papers were kept. My hand shook as I held the deed, David's signature still bold on the cover from when we bought this house. I checked carefully, relieved no signs of tampering. But then, a scrap of paper slipped out. In Emily's handwriting, "Meet Henry, 7 p.m. The Old Lane Cafe." My heart raced. Evidence. Emily was meeting the agent tonight. My chance to learn more. I locked the safe, but unease lingered. Confronting them could tear the family apart. Staying silent, I'd lose everything. That afternoon, I cooked as usual, the rich aroma of braised pork filling the house. But my heart was heavy. James came home, sat to eat, but avoided my eyes, exchanging only brief words with Emily. "Mom, we're heading out tonight," Emily said, her gaze probing. "All right, love," I replied calmly, but my mind raced. I'd follow them. I needed the truth, no matter how painful. As they left, I grabbed a coat, pulled on a hat, and prepared to leave. But my phone rang a number I didn't know. I answered, and a low male voice said, "You're James's mother, right? I need to talk about your house." My heart stopped. Who was this, friend or foe? The voice felt vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. Who's this? I asked, gripping the phone. Meet me at the Old Lane Cafe. 8 p.m. I'll explain. The call ended. I stood frozen. The scent of incense from David's altar wafting over, urging me to be strong. I looked at the suitcase, then at the family photo on the wall, James's radiant smile from years ago. I'd go, not to flee, but to face whatever truth awaited. I stepped outside. The night breeze carrying the smell of earth and city dust. The Old Lane Cafe was a few streets away, and I knew tonight would change everything. But as I crossed the lane, I saw the figure from last night, same cap, standing under the apple tree, staring right at me. My heart clenched. Did they know what I was doing? Or was this a bigger trap? The night breeze swept through London, carrying the chill of late autumn, laced with the faint smell of exhaust fumes and the savory tang of fish sauce from a nearby cafe. I stood frozen, clutching my coat, my eyes locked on the figure under the apple tree. The cap obscured their face, but their gaze, sharp and cold, pierced through me. My heart pounded, threatening to burst from my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. Fear couldn't win. I took a deep breath, the damp earth and apple leaves filling my senses, then hurried through the lane, pretending not to notice. The figure didn't move, just watched silently. And when I glanced back, they'd vanished into the shadows. Who were they? Someone Emily sent, or a curious stranger? The question churned in my mind, but I had no time to linger. The Old Lane Cafe awaited, and tonight would mark the first step in my plan. I walked quickly, my shoes scraping the pavement, each step like a countdown. The cafe sat at the end of a narrow alley, its faded wooden sign glowing under a dim street lamp. I pushed open the door, the aroma of roasted coffee and cigarette smoke hitting me, mingling with the melancholic strains of an old folk tune from a crackling speaker. In the corner, Emily and James sat across from a man in a suit, surely Henry, the agent Margaret had mentioned. Emily was speaking, her hands animated, her voice sharp but hushed, as if wary of eavesdroppers. James sat beside her, head bowed, twisting his shirt hem like a child caught doing wrong. I chose a table tucked behind a bamboo screen, ordered an iced tea to blend in, and listened. Henry, that house is worth a fortune. Property prices in this area are soaring. Emily said, her tone sweet but calculating. Once my mother-in-law signs the papers, you handle the rest. Henry nodded, jotting something in a notebook, his voice low. But has she agreed? I hear she's stubborn. Emily smirked, glancing at James. James will sort it. Won't you, love? James mumbled, eyes fixed on the table. I gripped my glass, the icy water chilling my palm, but the anger inside me burned colder. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted to sell the house. David's legacy, my life's work. I pulled out my phone, activating the recorder, careful not to draw attention. Every word was evidence, and I needed it to protect myself. But then Henry glanced around, his eyes sweeping toward my table. My heart lurched. I ducked my head, sipping my tea, my hands trembling so much that water splashed onto the table. Careful. Emily, Henry said, voice lower. She's not daft. If she gets a solicitor, our plan's done for. Emily laughed, confident. She's old. She won't fight back. James has talked to her. She'll come around. James looked up, hesitant. Maybe we should slow down. She's still my mum. Emily's eyes flashed like a blade. You want our kid growing up in that cramped house. Think of the future. Her words were a final blow. James fell silent, head dropping lower. I wanted to stand, scream at them, but I held back. Our family's values taught restraint, not airing grievances in public. I took another sip of tea, its bitterness mirroring the pain I swallowed. But my plan clarified. I'd pretend to agree, stay, and gather more evidence. I wouldn't let Emily take what David left behind. When they stood to leave, I waited a few minutes before slipping out. The alley was dark, lit only by the golden glow of streetlights reflecting off rain puddles. I walked, my mind reeling with what I'd heard. Then my phone buzzed the unknown number from last night. I answered, and the same low voice spoke. You're at the cafe, right? I saw you. Meet me at the park nearby. Now, I froze, scanning the shadows, but saw no one. Who are you? I asked, voice trembling but steady. Someone who wants to help. Hurry, they're watching you. I reached the small park, where stone benches sat under sprawling plane trees, leaves scattered on the wet ground. A middle-aged man in a worn shirt sat there, cigarette smoke curling under the dim lamplight. You're James's mother, he asked, his voice gravelly, eyes sharp. I nodded, clutching my bag. I'm Nathan. Worked with your husband. I know what Emily's up to. Want my help? I hesitated. Our family's caution around strangers held me back. But his eyes held a sincerity reminiscent of David. Help how? I asked. Nathan explained he'd been David's friend, knew about the house and our savings. Emily's working with Henry to sell the house, but it's more than that. They want you to sign a power of attorney. Take everything. James doesn't know the full plan. Emily's got him under her thumb. My head spun, my fingers digging into the cold stone bench. How do you know? I asked, wary. He pulled a stack of papers from a battered briefcase, copies of a brokerage contract, with Emily's name bold on the page. I've got mates and property. They tipped me off, but you need to act fast before they force you to sign. I took the papers, my hands shaking, the faint smell of old ink sharp in my nose. This was evidence, but also a burden. Confronting them could shatter the family. Ignoring it, I'd lose everything. Morality tore at me, a mother, but also a wife preserving her husband's legacy. What do? I asked softly. Nathan's eyes were stern. Don't leave. Stay. Play along. But get a solicitor. I'll help you keep tabs on Henry. I nodded, but doubt weighed heavy. Could I trust this ally? Or did he have his own motives? Back home, Emily and James were in the living room. Emily's eyes flicked with suspicion. Out late? Mum, she asked. I smiled faintly, voice calm, just a walk. Love old bones, need fresh air. She said nothing, but her gaze probed. James looked at me, hesitant. Mum, stay. Please, don't go. His words carried guilt, but not enough to defy Emily. I nodded, but my plan was set. I'd stay. Not to obey, but to watch, gather evidence, and protect David's legacy. Upstairs, I locked my door and checked the safe again. The deeds were safe, but I knew they'd act soon. I texted Margaret, meet tomorrow. I need a solicitor. Then I looked at the family photo on the table. James's bright smile from years past. I brushed it. Tears falling. My boy, I don't want to fight you, but I must protect what your dad left us. Suddenly, the noise from the garden returned, the sharp scrape of a shovel, louder than before. I rushed to the balcony, heart racing. The figure in the cap was back, but this time they looked up, and the street light caught their face. A woman, not Emily, but familiar. My heart clenched. Who was she? And why was she digging in my garden? Was this tied to something bigger, something Emily and Henry were after? The sharp click of the key turning in the lock echoed like a warning that everything was about to erupt. I stepped into the house, my worn slippers heavy on the faded tiled floor, the lingering scent of braised pork from dinner hanging in the damp air of our old home. The neon kitchen light spilled into the living room, illuminating Emily's face as she sat on the sofa, remote in hand but her eyes fixed on me. Piercing and unyielding, James stood beside her, restless, twisting his wedding ring, the one I'd helped pay for when he married her. The atmosphere was thick, like the calm before a London downpour. When dark clouds gather and the wind begins to howl, I close the door, forcing my voice to stay calm in that understated British way, though my heart churned. Back early. Are you? I thought you'd be out late. Emily set the remote down, the plastic clacking against the wooden table, her smile thin and sharp as a blade. You're out late too. Mum, just a walk, or meeting someone. My blood surged, but I swallowed hard, the bitter taste in my throat urging restraint. I'm old. Love a walk does me good. James glanced at Emily, then at me, his voice hesitant. Mum, sit down. We need to talk. I took the chair opposite, my fingers brushing the apron, the rough cotton a reminder of the days I sewed to raise James. The small living room, with its hand-stitched picture of a lotus flower, a symbol of purity in our family's traditions, felt like a battlefield now. Emily began, her voice sharper than usual. Mum, we know what you're up to. Stop pretending. Margaret's told us everything you met Nathan. Didn't you? My heart clenched, breath catching. They knew. Had Margaret betrayed me? No, she was my dearest friend, but perhaps they'd intimidated her. I met Emily's gaze, her eyes gleaming with triumph. You think we're daft? You want to cling to this house, but it's ours now. Sign the papers, Mum, and stay or go, your choice. Her words were the final straw. I stood, hands trembling but voice steady. This house is your father's legacy, not for strangers to buy. Emily, how dare you speak to your mother-in-law like that? She shot to her feet, face flushed, pointing at me. Mom, you're old. Stay out of our business. James, tell her. James looked at me, then at his wife. his grip tightening. Mom, Emily's right. We need the money for our child's future. You've done enough. Let us take it from here. His words cut like a knife. The metallic taste of blood in my mouth as I bit my lip to keep from crying. Done enough. I sold my wedding ring, stayed up nights nursing him, and now he chose his wife over me. The argument exploded, shouts echoing through the small house, drowning out the hum of traffic outside. Emily yelled, "What do you want? Mom, to be our servant or out on the street? We've given you a choice." I turned to James, tears streaming but voice sharp. "My boy, have you forgotten your promise at your father's grave? You said you'd care for me forever." He looked down, voice soft. "Mom, times have changed. Emily's pregnant. We need a bigger place." Emily cut in, voice shrill. "Exactly. Think of your grandchild. Don't be selfish." The room spun, the faint incense from David's altar wafting over, as if he were witnessing this collapse. The doorbell rang suddenly, its chime cutting through the chaos. It was Margaret, pale and clutching her bag. "Mary," I heard shouting. I had to come. Emily spun, eyes blazing. "Margaret, mind your own business, get out." Margaret looked at me, then at Emily. "I'm a neighbor, worried about the noise." "Mary, don't let them bully you." James interjected. "Margaret, please, this is family." But she stood firm, voice steady. "James, I watched you grow up. Now you let your wife push your mother out. Our family values teach respect for parents. Not this." Emily lunged, shoving Margaret. "Shut up. This is my house." The argument spiraled, now drawing in the neighbors. Robert, James's older brother, living a few streets away, was called, summoned by James's desperate text. He strode in, tall and broad, the smell of engine oil clinging to his work clothes. "What's going on?" "Mom, Emily, calm down." I recounted everything, voice breaking. "Robert, they want to sell the house. Cast me out?" Emily interrupted. "No, she won't listen. Wants to hoard the assets." Robert looked at James, tone stern. "James, you're the youngest, but don't forget Mum raised you." Emily, "A daughter-in-law respects her mother-in-law, not screams in her face." But then Robert took a side not quite mine. "Mum, maybe split the assets. Let them manage. Times are tough." His words hit like a thunderbolt, my legs weakening, forcing me to grip the chair. Robert, my eldest, whom I'd prioritized, now swayed by money. Margaret stood by me. "Robert, what are you saying? Mum's given you enough, now it's James's turn." Emily smirked, triumphant. "See, everyone agrees. You're alone." "Mom," James looked at me, eyes red. "Mom, I'm sorry. But Emily's right. Stay, but do as we say." I felt truly isolated, pushed to the edge of the family I'd built with my blood and sweat. The shouting continued, but my ears rang, hearing only my pounding heart. Our family's values preached unity, but now my sons took sides. Robert neutral, but leaning toward money. Margaret, my only ally, yet just a neighbor. I looked at the family photo on the wall, David's smile seeming to reproach me. "How did you let this fall apart?" Finally, Robert said, "Enough. We'll talk tomorrow." Everyone calmed down. They dispersed, but the air remained heavy, like after a storm. Emily whispered to James, "Get the papers signed tomorrow. Don't let her back out." I heard but pretended not to. In my room, I locked the door, hands shaking as I called Nathan. "Nathan, it's bad they know everything." His voice was calm. "Stay steady. Mary, meet me tomorrow. I have new evidence on Henry." I lay on the bed, the cold sheets chilling my skin, the faint scent of sun-dried laundry offering no comfort. My family was broken, my sons divided, leaving me isolated. But a spark flickered. I wouldn't surrender. I'd use this isolation to fight back. Suddenly, a louder noise came from the garden, not digging, but like someone breaking the fence. My heart raced. I rushed to the balcony, looking down. The figure in the cap no longer hid, and beside them was another Robert. What were they doing? This secret was bigger than I thought, and perhaps not just Emily, but Robert, too, was involved. The clatter of the bedroom lock echoed sharply, a stark reminder that I was barricading myself in my own home. Once a haven, now turned battlefield, scarred by irreparable cracks. I sank onto the bed, the worn cotton sheets damp with my cold sweat. The faint scent of sun-dried laundry mingling with the musty dust seeping from the wooden floorboards. My heart still pounded from the confrontation downstairs. Emily's shrill, venomous shouts ringing in my ears, cutting like a blade. Robert, my eldest son, the one I'd always put first, giving him the best food. The newest clothes had sided with them, his talk of splitting assets striking like a hammer, freezing the blood in my veins. Our family's values taught that children honor their parents, but now they chase money, their own futures, forgetting the sacrifices David and I poured into this house. I took a deep breath, the scent of sandalwood incense from David's altar in the corner filling my lungs, conjuring memories of full moon nights when I lit candles praying for family peace. My trembling hands opened the small safe in the wardrobe, where I kept the house deeds and vital papers. The rusty iron surface grazed my fingers, much like my life now worn and scarred. I pulled out the deed, its faded red cover a relic of time. David's bold signature from when we bought the land still vivid, full of hope. This house wasn't just walls. It was a legacy where James and Robert grew up, where I taught them respect and humility in our family's traditions. But now, Emily had her sights on it. And perhaps Robert, too, if that shadow in the garden was him. My phone buzzed on the table, its screen glowing in the dark room, Nathan calling. I answered, whispering to avoid Emily's ears. Nathan, what's urgent? His voice was hoarse, mixed with the sound of wind, as if he were outside. Mary, I've got new information. Henry's not just a property agent. He's working for a big firm eyeing this area for flats. Emily promised him she'd get you to sign the transfer papers for a hefty commission. But here's the thing, your house is worth far more. It's in a zone slated for road expansion. Could double in value. My head spun, my grip tightening on the deed, crumpling the edges. Road expansion. I recalled David mentioning this plot. Bought cheap because it was far from the city center. But now London's growth had made it gold. Emily knew, and she was after it, but why was Robert involved? I locked the deed away and stood, my legs heavy as lead, stepping onto the balcony. The night breeze carried the gritty smell of city dust from the nearby road, the distant hum of traffic like a restless city's whisper. The garden below was cloaked in darkness, the digging sounds from last night now silent. I squinted at the fence, noticing a fresh patch of disturbed earth, as if someone had been searching. For what? David once joked about burying money under the apple tree. Was it true? I returned to the room, suspicion gnawing. Robert, my practical eldest, always money-minded, might know something. I recalled him asking about my savings mum. Which bank? Let me help manage it. I'd laughed, thinking it was care. But now, was he manipulated by Emily or the mastermind? The next morning, I rose early, brewing jasmine tea as usual, its delicate scent filling the kitchen, but failing to ease my burden. Emily came down, hair disheveled, dark circles under her eyes as if sleepless from last night's row. She glanced at me, her voice sweet but laced with intent. Up early. Mom, have some porridge, I made it. I nodded, sitting at the table, my fingers curling around the spoon, the warmth seeping through the silver. Emily, about last night. Have you thought it through? This house is your father-in-law's legacy. She set a bowl before me, the clink of porcelain on wood sharp, then sat opposite, her eyes piercing. Mom, we don't want to push you out, but you need to understand. James needs money for our child. And Robert agrees. I swallowed a spoonful of porridge, the salty tang of fish sauce mixing with the bitterness in my throat. Robert, you've spoken to him. Emily smirked, placing a piece of greens in my bowl. Yes, he agrees. He said you should split it. Give everyone a share. Her words confirmed my fears. Robert, whom I thought innocent, always protective of his younger brother, was being used. Or was he willing? I kept my voice calm, as a mother-in-law should, avoiding direct confrontation. I understand, but I need time to think. Don't rush me. Emily nodded, but her eyes flashed with calculation. Think fast. Mum Henry's waiting for the papers. She stood, leaving a heavy silence. I ate on, my mind drifting to Robert, my eldest, mature from childhood, helping his father with chores. But after David's death, he often asked about money, fearing scarcity. Perhaps Emily exploited that, promising him a cut. I decided to confront Robert. No more waiting. I slipped into a simple gray dress, the soft silk David once praised, and cycled to his garage a few miles away. The morning streets buzzed, the smell of diesel mixing with the aroma of fresh bread from a roadside stall, the blare of horns underscoring the city's pulse. At the garage, machinery roared, the sharp scent of hot metal filling the air. Robert was bent over an engine, sweat soaking his shirt. Mom. He looked up, surprised, wiping his hands on a rag. What brings you here? Come inside. Rest. We sat in a corner on plastic chairs, the whir of a fan cutting through the din. I looked at him, voice soft but sharp. Robert, tell me the truth. Do you know Emily's planning to sell the house? He looked down, twisting a spanner, the metallic clink ringing out. Mom, I know. Emily told me. But Mom, times are tough. I need money for the garage. My heart stung, like a needle's prick. You need money. Why didn't you tell me? Selling the house is your father's legacy. He looked up, eyes red. Mom, Emily promised me a share. I didn't want this. But my wife's ill, needs treatment. His wife ill. I started gripping my bag. Why didn't you say, I have savings I can help? He shook his head, voice breaking. Emily said you wouldn't, that you're angry with me. She said she'd handle it if you signed. The truth peeled back like an onion's layers. Emily wasn't just after the house, she was manipulating Robert, exploiting his love for his wife. I touched his hand, his callous skin rough under my fingers. Like his life, Robert, Emily's lying. She's working with Henry to sell it all, no shares. He jerked up, face pale. Really? Mom? I trusted her. I told him everything from the cafe meeting to Nathan's evidence. Robert sat silent, hands trembling, then stood abruptly. Mom, I'll talk to Emily. I won't let her ruin us. But his voice wavered, uncertain. Back home, my mind was chaos. Robert was innocent, manipulated by his wife's illness. But what would he do? In the kitchen, I chopped vegetables, the knife's sharp edge thudding against the wooden board, matching my heartbeat. Emily returned, seeing me, her voice sugary. Thought it over. Mum, sign the papers. I met her gaze. Calm. I'll think. Emily. But stop using Robert. She froze, eyes flashing with anger. What? I'm not, but her voice shook, as if exposed. That night, I lay awake, the damp sheets clinging to my skin, the faint incense lingering. My phone buzzed Robert. Mum, I confronted Emily. She denied it. But I found papers she signed with Henry, and there's a forged signature of yours. My heart clenched. Forged. They dared. But then, a loud crash from the garden, not digging, but like someone breaking the back door. I rushed to the balcony, heart pounding, and looked down. The figure in the cap was Henry, beside a stranger holding a fake deed. What were they doing? And how did Robert know so fast? Perhaps he was in deeper than I thought. The jarring crash of the back door being forced open pierced the stillness of the night, like a hammer shattering the fragile silence of our old house. I stood on the balcony, gripping the icy iron railing, the chill seeping into my skin, raising goosebumps. The damp earth from the garden mingled with the metallic tang of the bent fence, and in the flickering shadows cast by the dim street light, I saw clearly Henry, the suited property agent, hunched over a stack of papers, beside a tall, thin man holding a torch, illuminating a patch of dug-up earth. They weren't digging aimlessly. They were after something specific. Perhaps the treasure under the apple tree David once joked about. A story I now suspected hid a real cache of savings he'd buried before his death. My heart pounded, blood rushing in my ears. Drowning out the cricket's hum, I shouted, "Who's there?" "Stop!" My voice echoed, startling them. Henry swore under his breath, and they bolted, scrambling over the fence, leaving behind churned earth and a scrap of paper. Likely the fake deed Robert mentioned. I rushed downstairs to the kitchen, barefoot on the cold wooden floor, its rough grain a reminder that this house was under siege. Emily and James burst from their bedroom, Emily's face pale beneath a sheen of night cream. James in disheveled pajamas, eyes bleary but anxious. "Mom, what's happening?" James asked, voice trembling, his arm protectively around Emily. She glanced at the garden, a flash of panic in her eyes. Probably just burglars. "Mom, don't worry." "James, go check." But I wouldn't let them deflect. I picked up the fallen paper, smoothing it under the kitchen light, the fresh ink's sharp scent hitting me. It was a copy of the deed, my signature forged, the date falsified. "Not burglars," I said, my voice calm but cutting, in the measured tone of a British matriarch, sharp without shouting. "It's Henry, and you both know him." "Emily, explain." She froze, lips pressed tight, her eyes darting to James for rescue. He gripped the table, head bowed. "Mom, it's not like that. Emily was just asking about house prices." Emily jumped in, her voice high but defensive. "You're wrong. Mom, Henry's a friend, helping us look into property. You're old, don't overthink it." Her words were the breaking point. I decided it was time for a direct confrontation. No mercy. We sat around the kitchen table, the air heavy as before a storm, the stale scent of afternoon jasmine tea mingling with the tense sweat of the three of us. I placed the paper on the table, the soft rustle like thunder. "Emily, I know everything. You're working with Henry to sell the house, using a forged signature. Robert told me, and Nathan has proof." Emily paled, her trembling hand spilling water from her glass, a small puddle glinting under the light. Mom, who's filling your head with this? Robert's just jealous. He needs money for his wife's treatment. James looked at her, then at me, voice faltering. Tell the truth. Mom knows. The conversation was layered, as in our family's way, not blunt. Each word carrying intent. Emily cried, tears streaming, but her eyes remained cold. Calculated. Mom, I just want what's best for the family. This house is old, sell it. Buy a bigger one for the baby. I'm pregnant, don't you care about your grandchild? Her words targeted my weakness, maternal duty, our values urging care for the next generation. But I didn't fall for it. Best for the family, or for you and Henry. A fat commission. Right. You used Robert, promised him a share, but planned to keep it all. Emily shot up, the wooden chair screeching. What are you saying? I'm your daughter-in-law. I respect you like my own mother. James, tell her I'm not like that. James sat silent, twisting his glass, the clink against the table mirroring his turmoil. Mom, Emily did this for me. We're in debt, need money. But the forged signature, you shouldn't have. Emily turned on him, eyes blazing. James, are you siding with her or me? This house is yours. Your dad left it to you. I cut in, voice soft but firm. This house is mine. Your father's will is clear. You want to steal it. Our values teach honoring parents, not casting them out. James cried, tears splashing into his glass. Mom, I'm sorry. Emily convinced me you'd agree for the baby. The bitter truth spilled out. Emily manipulated James with their unborn child, exploited Robert with his wife's illness. The deeper issue surfaced, our family fractured by greed, torn between tradition and modernity, where children valued money over kinship. I looked at Emily, voice steady. Emily, I'm giving you a chance. Tell me everything, or I call the police. She sank into her chair, hands covering her face, whispering. Fine, I met Henry through a friend. He promised a high price, 20% commission. I forged the signature because I thought you wouldn't agree. But I did it for James. For us. James shouted. How could you? She's my mom. Emily sobbed louder. Think of our child, live in this crumbling house forever. The confrontation dragged on, voices overlapping like a market brawl. But I stayed calm, as our women do reason over emotion. I called Robert over. He arrived quickly, face flushed with anger. Emily, you used me. I trusted you'd share money for my wife's treatment. Emily turned. Robert, I promised, but we need to sell first. He slammed the table, the thud resounding. Liar. Mom, get a solicitor, Emily pleaded. Mom, forgive me. I was wrong, we won't sell. Her pleas rang hollow, her eyes still scheming, plotting a reversal. I stood, brushing the family photo on the wall, its rough paper a reminder of happier times now shattered. I've decided. I won't sell. And Emily, you leave unless you change. James, choose your wife or your mother. He looked at me, then Emily, voice breaking. Mom, I can't choose. Emily stood, wiping tears. Fine. Mom, you win, but don't regret it. She turned upstairs, her voice carrying a veiled threat. I called Nathan, whispering, bring the evidence. We'll sue if needed. He agreed. But then the doorbell rang. Margaret, face anxious. Mary. I saw Henry in the lane, carrying something. My heart clenched. No turning back, I'd confront Henry. But opening the door, I found not him but an anonymous letter. Handwritten, you know too much. Stop, or lose everything. Who sent it? Emily? Or was Robert hiding something? And from the garden, a soft laugh echoed, as if someone watched. The slam of Emily's bedroom door echoed through the house like the final blast in a raging storm, leaving behind a heavy, stifling atmosphere, thick as the smoke after a fire. I stood there in the kitchen, still clutching the scrap of paper with the forged signature, the crumpled texture under my fingers, mirroring my heart, crushed but clinging to its shape. The scent of cooled jasmine tea wafted from the pot on the table, mingling with the tense sweat from our confrontation. Leaving my throat parched, James slumped into a chair, his face ashen under the harsh neon light, hands covering his eyes as if he couldn't bear to look at me. Mom, I don't know what to do anymore, he whispered, voice choked, tears streaming down his cheeks and pattering onto the worn wooden floor. I wanted to hug him, like when he was little and cried after falling off his bike. But now the gulf between us was vast as the Thames in flood, impossible to bridge with just an embrace. My actions confronting them head on, calling Robert over, and threatening legal action had triggered a chain reaction, like dominoes toppling in rapid succession, tearing the family apart. Robert, who'd stormed in with his face flushed in fury, now sat at the table, tapping his fist lightly on the wood, the dull thuds echoing his simmering rage. "Mom, Emily's gone too far. I won't stand for it," he said. His voice low but laced with implication. He'd side with me, yet subtly blaming James for his weakness. Emily shouted down from upstairs, "Robert, go home. This is our business." Her voice was shrill, mixed with feigned sobs, as if performing for the neighbors. Margaret, still hovering at the door under the golden glow of the streetlight, whispered to me, "Mary, shall I fetch Mr. Harris from next door, in case it turns nasty?" But I shook my head, smoothing my apron, the rough cotton a reminder that I had to stay composed in the way our family upheld a matriarch. Doesn't lose control in front of her children. The fallout spread quickly, like gossip in our tight-knit London neighborhood. Robert phoned his wife, raising his voice. "Love, Emily's tricked us all. She planned to swallow up Mum's house money." His wife, my daughter-in-law, whom I'd cared for during her pregnancy, sobbed over the speaker. "Robert, I need the money for treatment, but not like this. Mom, forgive me, please." I listened, my heart aching, a bitter taste rising as I swallowed. She was innocent, dragged in by her illness, now a victim of Emily's schemes. James heard it all, his face paling further, knuckles white around his phone. "Robert, don't drag her into this. Emily, she's wrong, but she's my wife." Emily charged into the kitchen, hair disheveled, eyes red but blazing with anger. "Robert, you're just jealous because Mum always favored James. This house was left to him. What's your share?" Her words cut deep, subtly sowing division between brothers, the classic ploy of a manipulative daughter-in-law. The family shattered before my eyes, like the hand-stitched lotus picture on the wall, a symbol of purity now torn to shreds. Robert leaped up, jabbing a finger at her. "Shut it. You used my wife's illness to pressure Mum into signing. I've got proof Henry texted you." Emily froze, her hand shaking as she held a glass, water spilling into a shimmering puddle. You're lying. "James, do you believe your wife or your brother?" James sat motionless, head bowed, twisting his wedding ring, the one I'd helped buy, as if in inner turmoil. I don't know," he murmured, voice laced with agony, implying he'd choose her, but guilt gnawed at him. Margaret interjected, "Come on, everyone, calm down. In our family, blood's thicker than water. We stick together." But her words fell flat. Robert turned to me. "Mum, I'll bring my wife here to stay, to protect you. James, if you're with her, then go." His words exploded like a bomb. James sobbing loudly. "Robert, don't kick me out." The chain reaction rolled on. Neighbors began murmuring in the lane, their whispers drifting through the open window, the faint incense from a nearby church mixing with the cool night breeze. Mr. Harris knocked. Face stern Mary. Heard the commotion, need a hand. I invited him in, explaining briefly, voice low, "Mr. Harris, the kids are fighting over the house." He shook his head, stroking his beard. "These days, kids forget their duties. Keep those deeds safe. Love, don't let them snatch it." Emily overheard and shrieked, "Mind your own. This is family." Mr. Harris turned to James. "James, I watched you grow up. Now you let your wife bully your mum." James bowed deeper, tears splashing. "Mr. Harris, I'm sorry." The community's backlash isolated Emily, but she remained defiant, whispering to James, "Let's move out. Leave Mum and Robert to rot here." I felt a hollow victory wash over me, glad to have safeguarded David's legacy, but empty inside. As the family lay in ruins, I went upstairs to David's altar, lighting incense, its soothing smoke easing the heaviness just a fraction. His photo smiled kindly, the will beside it left to my wife and children. "But Mum decides." I traced his smile, fingers trembling. "David, did I do right? The kids hate me now." Downstairs, sobs rose. Emily crying to James, "Our baby will grow up without a grand." James soothed Em. "Calm down. Mum, she'll forgive." But Robert cut in. "Forgive what?" "Emily apologized to Mum." The arguing flared again, voices clashing like a street market. That night, I lay awake, sheets damp with sweat, the faint sun-bleached scent offering no solace. The hollow victory spread, like savoring a fine meal with a bitter aftertaste. I'd won, but at what cost? My bond with James, the brothers' brotherhood, and perhaps the neighbors' trust. Come morning, James packed for Emily, the suitcase wheels scraping harshly on the wood. "Mum, we'll go for now. Give you time to think." Emily shot me a venomous glance. "Enjoy the house, Mum, but don't blame us if your grandkid stays away." Robert stayed, bringing his wife. "Mum, I'll be here for you." She, pale from illness, hugged me. "Mum, thank you for not blaming me." but her eyes held unspoken guilt. She knew Robert had been drawn in, and now the family was wrecked. The fallout persisted. James called, voice weary, "Mom, Emily miscarried from the stress." Happy now, my heart constricted, like a vice. Blood's metallic tang as I bit my lip. Miscarried. Because of me. The hollow victory turned to anguish, sharp as a blade. I wept. Phone shaking, son. I'm sorry. Bring her home. But Emily snatched it. Don't pretend. This is your fault. The line went dead. A long beep lingering. Robert comforted Mom. Don't blame yourself. Emily brought it on. But I knew my actions had caused irreparable loss. The family was utterly broken. Robert and his wife stayed, but the air was thick with tension. Children's laughter from neighboring gardens. A cruel reminder of the grandchild I'd lost. I gazed at the family photo. James's old smile distant now. Hollow victory enveloped me, like triumph without substance. But then the doorbell rang. Nathan. Face grave, Mary. I've got news. Henry's been arrested for fraud. And he spilled that Emily wasn't alone. Someone else in the family's involved. Robert. My heart stopped. Robert. Innocent. Or a betrayer too. The harsh scrape of the suitcase wheels on the wooden floor sounded like a final farewell to the house I'd called home for 40 years. I paused at the front door, clutching the worn handle of the old suitcase, the one David used to carry our belongings from the countryside when we married. Its cracked leather grazed my fingers, the faint smell of aged dust mingling with the sandalwood incense from his altar in the living room. The late afternoon London sunlight streamed through the door's cracks, casting long streaks across the floor, illuminating the family photo on the wall, James and Robert beaming beside me and David. A snapshot of happier times when we gathered for Christmas. Now, that photo felt like a silent reproach, blaming me for choosing to leave after the wreckage my actions had caused. I took a deep breath. The acrid smell of exhaust from the street outside seeping in, mixed with the city's hum motorbikes whirring, a street vendor's call echoing in the distance. Robert stood beside me, his face flushed with a mix of anger and worry, clutching the house keys. Mom, don't go. I'll kick Emily and James out. Stay with me and my wife. His wife, my daughter-in-law, whom I'd nursed through childbirth, stood behind him, pale from illness, hand on her stomach. Mom, please stay. I need you. Her words carried unspoken guilt. She felt bad for Robert's brief entanglement in Emily's scheme, though he swore his innocence. But Nathan's warning lingered. Henry said Robert was involved. I looked at Robert, his eyes dodging mine, his grip on the keys whitening his knuckles. You're sure you knew nothing about the forged signature? I asked softly, my voice steady but layered with implication. I doubted him, but held back from direct confrontation, as a British mother would, sparing her son's pride in front of his wife. Robert shook his head, voice urgent. Mom, I swear on Dad's grave, Emily tricked me, promised a share for my wife's treatment. I didn't sign anything. His wife chimed in, voice faint. Mom, he's telling the truth. Don't go. This house feels empty without you. I touched her hand, her skin thin and cold despite the warm day. I know you've suffered, love, but I need time to see things clearly. My words implied I wasn't fully convinced, and leaving was my way to watch from afar. Margaret stood at the door, eyes red, holding a small bag of homemade biscuits. Mary, I'll walk you to the bus. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on the house. Emily and James had left that morning. After the miscarriage call, a claim I still doubted. Knowing Emily's knack for emotional manipulation, I stepped into the lane, the afternoon sun glaring into my eyes, forcing me to squint, tears falling not from sorrow but from the brightness. The narrow street buzzed with life, the smell of sizzling pancakes from a roadside stall, stirring memories of James tugging my hand for a treat. Where was he now? He'd texted Mum, Emily lost the baby. All your fault. His words cut like a knife, yet hinted at regret while still defending her. I didn't reply, just dragged the suitcase, its wheels clattering on the uneven pavement, matching my uneven heartbeat jagged with worry. Margaret walked beside me, whispering, Mary, I don't trust Robert. Yesterday, I saw him call Henry, talking about splitting shares. I stopped, gripping the suitcase handle. Really, why didn't you tell me sooner? She looked down, didn't want to break your heart. But go somewhere safe, I'll watch him for you. I boarded a bus to a quieter part of the city, to my cousin's small house by the Thames. The smell of grilled fish wafted through the bus window from a nearby market. The vehicle rattled along, the engines droned, drowning out a sad folk tune on the radio. Come back to your mother, child. I traced the small photo in my purse. David and the boys, its smooth surface a faint comfort, yet a reminder of permanent change. The family was shattered. James sided with Emily, perhaps cutting me off forever. Robert stayed in the house, but if he was involved, our bond was fraying. His wife texted Mum. Robert's worried. Come back. But the subtext, she feared his temper if I didn't return. At my cousin's, the aroma of fresh cooked rice filled the modest kitchen. She hugged me, patting my back. Tell me everything. Love, your kids have gone too far. I sat at the simple wooden table, picking at a piece of braised fish, its warmth lost to the bitter taste in my mouth. I'm exhausted. Sarah, they want to steal the house I've left to see what they do next. She nodded, voice soft. Our values say kids honor their parents, not chase them out. But these days, money blinds them. We ate, the clink of spoons against bowls, a rhythm of normalcy. But my heart churned. I slept on an old wooden bed, the sun-bleached sheets faintly comforting. But sleep was fitful, haunted by David's voice. Keep the house for the boys, but don't let them forget their roots. Waking in a sweat, I called Nathan. Was Robert involved? His voice was grave. Mary. Henry said Robert introduced Emily to him, but he denies signing anything. Claims he only asked about land prices. Days passed, and I settled into a new routine, brewing morning tea, its delicate jasmine scent calming, helping Sarah with household chores, sewing for neighbors. The needle pricked the fabric, each stitch a jab at my heart, painful but familiar. I shopped at the market. The smell of fresh fish from the Thames sharp in my nose, the lively haggling reminding me of my old home. But the change was permanent. James didn't call, only texting Mom, come back, Emily's sorry. Implied she wanted reconciliation to reclaim the house. Robert called daily, Mom, the house is empty without you. Come home, I'll handle everything. But Margaret texted Mary, Robert's fiddling with the deeds, says it's to protect them. But I'm not sure. I wondered, was he innocent or greedy? Our mother-son bond was a fragile thread, ready to snap. I met Nathan at a riverside cafe, the bitter aroma of roasted coffee mixing with the cool Thames breeze. He handed me papers. Here's the text between Robert and Henry. He asked about land prices, but didn't sign anything. My hands shook as I read. Robert wrote, Emily's asking for me. But don't tell Mom, implied he knew, but wasn't deeply involved. I exhaled, but my heart stayed heavy. Thanks, Nathan, but my family's gone. He patted my hand, warm but distant. Mary, start fresh. A new life isn't bad. I nodded. Tears falling, a hollow victory now joined by loneliness. Weeks passed, and I adapted cooking with Sarah, the tangy fish stew evoking the past, but marking a new start. I planted herbs in her garden, the damp soil under my fingers and the fresh scent of leaves sparking faint hope. Then my phone buzzed. James, voice hoarse, Mom. Emily's pregnant again. For real this time. Come back. Be a gran. My heart tightened. Returning meant facing Emily. And Robert, Sarah advised. Think hard. Love. Don't let them use you again. I gazed at the Thames, its rushing waters under the afternoon sun, carrying away fallen leaves. Was this new life truly freedom? Suddenly, Margaret called Mary. Robert brought Henry to the house, talking deeds. They're planning something new without Emily. My heart raced. Robert a betrayer, or a trap to lure me back. I gripped the phone, hands icy. This new life was barely begun, yet already shadowed by darkness. The steady patter of rain on my cousin's tin roof echoed like the heartbeat of someone trying to mend old wounds. I sat by the window, cradling a steaming mug of ginger tea, its warmth seeping into my chilled hands, carrying the sharp, spicy scent of ginger mixed with the damp earth from the nearby Thames. 3 months had passed since I left the old house. 3 months of wrestling between memory and reality. Life here was simple mornings helping Sarah cook porridge with braised fish, the faint tang of soy sauce stirring memories of past family meals. Afternoons sewing under the shade of a jackfruit tree, the soft click of needle through fabric, a reminder that my hands still had purpose. But at night, when the cool river breeze slipped through thin curtains, I lay awake, tracing the photo of David in my purse, the smooth paper under my fingers, like a whisper from the past. Love, to forgive or not, is your choice. My phone buzzed on the weathered wooden table, its screen glowing in the dim room. Robert's name. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen. Recalling Margaret's warning, Mary. Robert brought Henry to the house. Talking deeds. He'd called often, his voice always warm, Mom. Come home. The house feels empty. But beneath his words, did he want me back to control the situation? Or was he truly remorseful? I answered, keeping my tone calm, as a seasoned British mother would, hiding emotion. Robert, I'm listening. His voice crackled, rain audible in the background, as if he stood in the old garden. Mom, me and my wife miss you. Can I come tomorrow to bring you home? Emily, she wants to see you too. Emily, my heart tightened, a bitter taste rising as I swallowed. Emily, the daughter-in-law I'd once welcomed with joy. Now the root of our ruin. What does Emily want? She lost the baby, now pregnant again. Is she? I asked softly, implying I know her games, but won't call them out yet. Robert faltered, a sigh escaping. Mum, Emily's sorry. She wants to apologize. For us to be a family again. James is the same, he's been crying. Mum, forgive them. Our values say family sticks together. His words suggested he was mediating. But why no mention of Henry? I gazed at the river, its murky water churning under the rain, fallen leaves drifting like hidden secrets. I've thought it through. Come tomorrow, but just to talk. I'm not coming back yet. Robert laughed, relieved. All right. Mum, I'll come early. My wife's made your favorite steamed rolls. I hung up, gripping the mug, its lingering heat no match for the chill in my heart. Reconciliation. Perhaps, but new boundaries were needed. I was no longer the mother who sacrificed endlessly. The next morning, the rain stopped, leaving a damp air thick with the scent of river mud, punctuated by sparrows chirping in the jackfruit tree. Robert arrived on his old motorbike, his wife perched behind, her face brighter thanks to the medicine funded by money I'd sent her directly. Bypassing Robert, she hugged me tightly, the faint floral scent of her shampoo lingering. Mom, I've missed you. Robert's been worried sick. I patted her back, feeling her bones beneath thin fabric. I know you've had it rough. Love. Had breakfast. Sarah made sweet bean pudding. We sat around the simple wooden table, spoons clinking against bowls. Robert placing a steamed roll in my dish. Eat up. Mom, she used your recipe. His gesture implied he wanted to stir old memories, to soften me. His wife added, voice low, Mom, Emily called me, wants to meet you alone. She cried, said the miscarriage was real, not fake. I looked at her, her eyes darting away. You believe her. After everything, she twisted her spoon. I don't know. But Mom, the baby's real this time. The doctor confirmed. Robert cut in. Voice patient. Mom, I've talked to James. He swears he'll keep Emily in line. Come home, you'll struggle alone. I'll handle everything. Deeds. Money. I gripped my spoon. Its metal cold against my palm. The deeds. What were you discussing with Henry? Robert stiffened, face flushing. Mom, I just asked about land prices. To protect them. Emily introduced Henry. But I didn't sign anything. His wife glanced at him, eyes anxious. Robert, tell the truth. Mum knows. He sighed, rubbing his face. Fine. I asked Henry about zoning, worried about losing value. But I'm not selling. Mom, trust me. His words hinted at hesitation, greed lingering. I nodded. But doubt gnawed. I trust you. But let's be clear, if I return, Emily apologizes sincerely, and I keep the deeds. The meeting stretched on, reminiscing about the past when David was alive, Robert helping him fix bikes, James studying by lamplight. Robert smiled. Remember, Mom, Dad always said, family's the root. Don't let money ruin it. I nodded, tears falling. I remember, but you boys forgot. His wife hugged me. Mum, I'll talk to Emily. Forgive her for the baby. I reflected, the sweet aroma of bean pudding wafting from the kitchen, like an invitation to reconcile. Forgive. Our values urged forgiveness to preserve harmony. But what was its worth if insincere? I thought of David. My sacrifices, selling my ring for Robert's training, borrowing for James's degree. Forgiving now meant opening the door to Emily. But what if she was still scheming? That afternoon, Robert rode off with his wife, promising James and Emily would come tomorrow. I sat alone, texting Margaret, keep watching the house. Anything odd with Robert? She replied swiftly, Mary. He met Henry yesterday. Just talked. Emily's been crying, maybe genuine. I sighed. The cool river breeze carrying the scent of grilled fish from a neighbor. Reconciliation was fragile. Like a rope bridge over the Thames, one misstep could collapse it. I decided I'd meet Emily, but with new boundaries, she must prove herself through actions, not words. I called James, voice soft. Son, bring Emily tomorrow. I'll listen. He sounded elated. Mum, thank you. Emily, she's changed. but his hesitation suggested he still feared her, and she might be acting. That evening, Sarah sat with me by the river, the gentle lapping of water against stone soothing. Think hard. Love. Don't let them use you. I nodded, tracing David's photo. I know. Sarah. But family's the route I have to try, forgiving. She smiled sadly. Forgive. But don't forget, our values say so. But these days, hearts are hard to read. I slept. The damp sheets cool, the river's scent faint, but my dreams were dark. Emily smirking, holding the deeds, Robert whispering behind her. I woke, heart racing, wondering was forgiveness worth it, or would it lead to greater loss? The next morning, the doorbell rang. James and Emily arrived, her belly slightly rounded, eyes red. She knelt, voice breaking. Mom, I was wrong. Forgive me. James stood beside, gripping her hand. Mom, she means it. I looked at her, hands trembling as I helped her up. Stand, Emily, but prove it with actions. She nodded, but her eyes flicked to Robert, on the phone outside, whispering, Henry, hold off Mum's back. My heart clenched. What was Robert doing? Had Emily truly changed? Or was this bridge leading to a new trap? The late afternoon sun streamed through the cracks of my cousin's window, casting long streaks across the worn-tiled floor. Where I sat alone with a bitter black coffee in hand, the rich, hand-roasted aroma from the cafe down the lane lingered, mingling with the damp river scent, tightening my throat with each sip. 6 months had passed since James's ultimatum. 6 months where each day felt like a crumpled page, its faded ink tracing the outlines of a fractured family. I traced the silver bracelet, David's gift when Robert was born, its tarnished surface under my fingers. A stark reminder of time's relentless march. The old house was distant now in miles, but in my heart, it remained an open wound where my sons were trying to mend the shards they'd shattered. I gazed at the Thames, its murky waters rushing under the afternoon sun, carrying fallen leaves and debris from upstream, much like my life swept along with unwanted remnants. Yesterday, James called, his voice hoarse over the phone, a baby's cry in the background. Mom, your grandson's born. We named him David, after Dad. Emily, she wants you to come hold him. His words carried an unspoken regret, typical of a British son guarding pride, not admitting fault outright. Emily cut in, her voice sweet but edged. Mom, I was wrong. The baby needs his gran. Come back. The house is ready for you. I stayed silent, gripping the phone until my knuckles ached, the coffee's bitterness lingering. Returning meant facing Emily, facing Robert, who Margaret still warned about Mary. Robert's been meeting Henry, talking land. Be careful. I wondered if my choice to leave had been worth it. I'd smiled, dragging that suitcase, thinking it would protect me, preserve David's legacy. Now what? The family was broken, yet reshaping in strange ways. Robert and his wife stayed in the old house. He called weekly, Mom. We fixed the place up, your room's untouched. My wife's better, thanks to your money. She texted privately, Mom. Robert's changed. He stopped seeing Henry, but he keeps asking about the deeds. Her words hinted he was still greedy, masked by care. James and Emily had rented a flat. Their son David born in a hospital near where I'd birthed James. They sent photos little David sleeping, his face like my husband's, eyes half closed as if dreaming of a reunited family. I stood, legs heavy, stepping onto the small balcony, the cool river breeze carrying the smoky scent of grilled fish from a neighbor's barbecue. Sarah sat beside me, fanning herself with a woven fan. Love, go back or stay. The grandkids need their gran. I gave a faint smile, tracing the weathered wooden railing. Sarah, I don't know. Forgiving's easy, forgetting's hard. Our values teach respect for elders, but my boys put money before family. She nodded, voice soft. True, but the baby's innocent. Visit. But keep your distance. Her words implied don't let emotion sweep away reason, like the river carries all. That afternoon, I decided to visit. I wore a pale blue dress, David's favorite, the soft silk hugging my skin like a whisper of comfort from the past. The bus rattled along, engine noise blending with a folk song on the radio. Come home to your mother. Child, I looked out. Past rows of terraced houses, the gritty smell of exhaust stinging my eyes. At the old house, Robert opened the door, face bright but eyes evasive. Mom, been waiting ages. Come in, my wife's cooked your fish stew. She hugged me, the tangy scent of fish sauce wafting from the kitchen. Mom, so glad you're here. The baby's coming soon. I stepped inside, the familiar wooden floor creaking underfoot like a greeting from the past. The family photo still hung on the wall, David's smile a silent rebuke. How did you let it come to this? James and Emily arrived, James cradling little David, the baby asleep in a blanket. A faint milky scent rising. Emily bowed her head, voice low. Mom, I'm sorry. I was greedy. Her words suggested regret, but held back, as if still scheming. James looked at me, eyes red. Mom, I was wrong. The house is yours, we won't sell. Robert clapped his brother's shoulder. Right, we're family again. Stay. Mom, his wife placed food in my bowl, the hot fish stew's tangy sweetness on my tongue. Eat. Mom, I used your recipe. We ate, chopsticks clinking, a semblance of family life, but tension lingered. Robert glanced at Emily. She at James, James avoiding my eyes. The meal stretched on, talk turning to the future mum. David'll need his gran to guide him, Emily said, hand on her belly, pregnant again. I nodded. Reflecting, was forgiveness worth it? What had I lost? Months alone at Sarah's. But in return, my sons seemed to awaken. Or were they pretending? Our values urged forgiveness for harmony, but what was its true worth if greed simmered beneath? I looked at little David, stirring with a soft cry, his warm, milky scent filling the air. I held him, his tiny weight like holding James long ago. David, it's Gran, I whispered. Tears falling. James touched my hand. Stay. Mum. Emily nodded. Mum, I'll listen now. But then, Robert's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, face paling, just stepping out for a call. I caught a fragment. Henry, hold off Mum's back. My heart clenched. The stew's tang turning bitter. Robert returned, forcing a smile. Just a mate. Mum, no worries. Emily glanced at him, eyes flashing shared secrets. Were they still hiding something? I smiled, holding the baby tighter. But inside, a question gnawed. Was this family truly reunited? Or just a fragile shell masking new greed? I looked to the garden. The old apple tree standing firm, its ripe fruit golden in the sunlight. A reminder of what remain memories, legacy, and an open future potentially joyful or poised to shatter again. I wondered if staying was worth it, or if I should grab the suitcase again. Little David's cries grew louder, echoing like a warning from the future.